Welcome to the magnificent county of Shropshire, a place of great character, handsome hills, intriguing valleys, and home to a fascinating and unique collection of extraordinary, significant heritage. It was in Shropshire's Coalbrookdale that Abram Darby perfected the secret of smelting iron with coke, a discovery that laid the foundations for the Industrial Revolution. The tourism legacy of that great achievement was the celebration of those powerhouses of progress in the form of 10 museums around the Ironbridge Gorge World Heritage Site. The pioneering endeavours and groundbreaking machinery are preserved and treasured, not least at the evocative Blists Hill Victorian town. It was activity and invention that would transform not just Britain, but the whole world.
Ingenuity, very much the spirit of the Industrial Revolution, where nowadays you can play with large-scale interactives and really get into the spirit of innovation and creativity, the thing that made Ironbridge the heart of the Industrial Revolution.
Shropshire is providing fine presentations of its important historical treasures.
This is Shrewsbury, and let your senses guide you.
The starting point for a visit must be the county town of Shrewsbury.
As it meanders around the town.
Here, visitors can enjoy a rich texture of proud heritage and popular contemporary attractions. Bringing together the best of old and new, plans are afoot to transform this amazing old flax mill, the first iron-framed building in the world, a structure that would allow architects to envisage skyscrapers. The flax mill will become a striking and significant community, commerce and arts centre to forever brighten the Shrewsbury skyline. There is, of course, the legacy of earlier eras of impressive building. 1,000 years ago, the Normans established a north-south border that would come to define the western edge of Shropshire. The county now treasures these critical fortifications. Some are merely remnants of stonework, others, such as Ludlow Castle, are functioning structures. And Ludlow's museum holds precious evidence of Victorian efforts at interpreting history from the region's rock formations.
The name Ludlow is actually internationally known because of the geology of the area as much as anything else. And it's that geology that was first described by Sir Roderick Murchison, the famous 19th century geologist who came here, studied the rocks, worked with local people, and finally understood what the geology actually told us. And he was the one that gave the name Ludlow to a particular age of rocks, which geologists around the world will be familiar with today.
Another man with an appetite to dig things up to see what was down there was one of Britain's most celebrated civil engineers, Thomas Telford. The Scot was commissioned by Shropshire to improve transport facilities across the county. This bridge was one of Telford's first projects in Salop, as Shropshire was called in those days. Telford's A5 skirted Wolverhampton and the Black Country. Shropshire's neighbours have sought to capture the evolving texture of working and home life of industrial towns at the Black Country Living Museum. Here we can take vivid steps back in time and explore the lifestyles and prospects of our ancestors. The advance of technology in Victorian times was extraordinary. Within a few years of the canal network providing an effective means of moving raw materials and finished goods, along came the railways to supersede that network. One of the country's finest preservations of the steam age is the wonderful Severn Valley Railway. Magnificent machines, exquisite views. Many locomotives were named after celebrated citizens. Air Chief Marshal Keith Park had been a courageous fighter pilot in World War I, then commanded RAF squadrons in the Battle of Britain.
And we've travelled to another delightful and evocative Shropshire tourism destination, the RAF Museum here at Cosford, to see a jaw-dropping fleet of aircraft.
Remember, it's only just over 100 years since man and woman first flew powered machines. Here at Cosford, key examples of those craft are displayed, not least the premier collection of critical machines that were developed as our defence force during the Cold War.
The museum features everything from the 1930s aviation right up to the current day. We've got the world's oldest Spitfire, we've got the world's first jet airliner, and almost everything in between besides.
Now we've got a formidable machine here behind us. Tell me about this.
Well, the MH-53 Pavlo helicopter, to give it its full title, actually started life in 1968, but it was continually updated, and this one was still flying in 2008 in Iraq.
The modern jetliner has shrunk the world. We can now reach any part of the globe within hours.
One popular global event has its roots in Shropshire, the Olympics. Athenian-style games in the small town of Much Wenlock in Victorian times inspired Baron Pierre de Coubertin to initiate international sporting contests.
This, of course, became the Olympic movement, celebrated with a fascinating array of artefacts throughout this handsome town.
1,000 years ago, we didn't know the Earth was round. There was no clear conception as to its size and shape. But religious travellers had determined some contours of the known world. Travel south to Hereford's Cathedral and see one of the world's most precious artefacts of our medieval scholarship, the Mappa Mundi. Here, visitors from across the globe examine this wonderful document, unique in its significance. Shropshire is a county rich in farmland. The Acton Scott Farm Museum celebrates the qualities and values of Victorian farming.
So here we are in the farmyard of a 19th century farm, but I'm talking to you in the 21st century, a time where we've got industrialised food production, food coming from all over the world. Here at Acton Scott, we can show you how the Victorians produced food, which was a very localised economy. And that's what young people in particular get from being here. And who knows, in 20 years' time, we might return to that sort of food production, local food economies.
A deep plough or a decent metal detector can bring all sorts of ancient treasures to the surface of the soil. Shropshire's museums are packed with wonderful finds dating back to prehistoric times. But we bow to our neighbours at the greatest good fortune so far in finding history beneath their fields. Visitors to Shropshire are recommended to hop over the border to be dazzled by the Staffordshire hoard, on display at several locations. Alas, to date, we so far know very little of the social context of many of these jewels and tools. Whereas Shropshire's long distinguished military heritage has been accurately documented and finely presented inside the walls of Shrewsbury Castle.
Shropshire Regimental Museum was set up in Shrewsbury Castle in 1985 to house the collections of the major regiments of Shropshire since 1755, and we have a collection of something like 40,000 items spread over 3 floors of this medieval border fortress.
Perhaps the most extraordinary single object is this decorative officer's baton. Who did it belong to? The leader of the German nation at the end of World War II. No, not Hitler. Admiral Dönitz, who became nominal head of the remains of the Nazi regime following his Führer's suicide. A few weeks later, he was arrested by the 159 Infantry Brigade. The baton was handed over as a token of surrender and retained by the regiment following this very important day in world history. Across the county, people are appreciating a huge array of historical treasures.
Shropshire and Shrewsbury take great pride in enviable natural resources and precious heritage.
Shrewsbury's Music Hall will be the hub of Shropshire's collections, housing the core of thousands of years of significant British history. From here radiate out the Roman roads, the Telford routes, the railway links, so that everyone who comes to Shropshire can see and enjoy this uniquely important and impressive array of amazing places and properties.
On a press visit to Shropshire in the Marches, you will find lots of fascinating stories. Come and see us soon.